what we want to do is accept the Torah. And what better way to accept the Torah than by learning Torah, by embracing Torah? Lubavitcher Rebbe says that when a Jew wants Hashem, and every Jew wants Hashem, he just, whenever he can, goes and learns Torah. He doesn't learn Torah because it's a mitzvah, a commandment, though it is. He doesn't learn Torah to get reward, though he will. He doesn't learn Torah for the blessings that come down, though they do. He doesn't learn Torah to know what to do, though we do need to know what to do, and we learn Torah to know what to do. He's learning Torah because he wants to give God a hug. Just like a child sees his parent and just wants to give him another hug. Not for brownie points, not to get something out, just to give a hug. And that's us and Hashem. That's us and God. And how do we give God a hug? We learn Torah. So that's what we want to do, especially, of course, on Shavuos. Shavuos is a time when the evil inclination that normally tries to mess us over and not allow us to learn is obsolete, at least in that specific issue of learning. It does not bother us for those 48 plus hours. So we definitely want to learn then. We definitely want to learn now as preparation. And we definitely want to commit to Torah. So we're committing to a shir, we're attending a class, we're pushing ourselves to go to a class, even if there are other commitments. This is how we truly show God, yes, we want your Torah. We love your Torah. We're so grateful we have your Torah. We're so grateful you gave us your Torah, because when you gave us your Torah, you gave us yourself. And we're so appreciative and privileged and awed that you chose to give us yourself. We are in chapter 39. We are on page Nun Beis. And what we are discussing in this chapter, which we just began last week, is us and the angels. Meaning, at the end of the previous chapter, chapter 38, we discussed two levels of intention. Now, chapter 38 started us on intention, on a deep focus on intention. 35, 36, 37 was like action, action, action. And 38 said, but we also need a lot of intention. And originally we were thinking of intention, and this is truly intention, thinking, God, this is for you. God, this is to connect to you. God, this is your will. And all that's intention. But by the end of the chapter, we got to a deeper point of intention, which is feeling. And at the end of chapter 38, we discussed two levels of intention, animal-like and man-like intention. Animal-like intention is the native, intuitive love and fear of God that every Jew has buried in their soul. And man-like intention is using our mind, that's why it's a man, because the gift of man is intellect, and choosing, that's why it's a man, because men have choice. So choosing with our intellect to create a relationship with God, to create a love, to create a fear, that's a man-like intention. In chapter 39, we say, and the person that's doing so, that's using choice, that's using intellect, that's creating an emotional relationship with God, that person is higher than the angel. That person has a higher relationship to God than an angel does. Because angels are God's animals. Angels are programmed. They're not choosing. Angels are actually generally not beings of intellect. They're beings of emotion. So the animals in our world and the holy animals above, the angels, they're both animals. Of course, most of us can say our relationship to God is also a little animal-like. We're also not like the ultimate in man. Well, I mean, do we think we're so holy that we're using our mind and choosing and creating an emotional relationship? But even then, the Rebbe says, you, man, that's animal-like intention, is still far greater than an angel. We're greater than the angels because we don't live in some celestial realm. We live in physical reality. We've got a lot of competing voices. We've got a lot of choices. We've got a lot of distractions, and we're still choosing to have this relationship with God. That's far more precious to God than the angels' emotional, innate love and fear. So that's what we're in the middle of discussing. We are, again, on the top of page Nun Beis. What we're exactly literally showing is the worlds above. We were discussing the nature of each world and the beings of each world which all of this is again supporting this concept of the angels as emotional beings. We said there's 4 spiritual realms beyond our physical Milky Way galaxy. The highest one is called Atzilus, then Bria, then Yetzira, then Asiya. Atzilus, the world of being, Bria, the world of creation, Yetzira, the world of formation, Asiya, the world of action. And we explained last week that each world has what's Kabbalistically called a partsuf, a face, which means the infinity of God is shining specifically through one godly dimension or certain godly aspect on each world. Atzilus, the infinity of God shines through Chachma, which means it's an expression of total nullification to God. In the next world, Bria, creation, God's infinity shines through intellect. Bina, it's the world of intellect. The next world, Yetzira, the world of formation, is where God's infinity shines through the emotions, the 6 emotive attributes. And that's why it's a world of emotion. It's a world where the high majority of angels are hanging out and emoting their love and fear of God. And the final of these 4 worlds, Asiya, action, that infinity shines through the 10th and final dimension, attribute, called Malchus, sovereignty. And it's a world of accepting God's sovereignty. So with all that background, because we were sort of right in the middle of something, and as is written, in Tikkunim, which means in a work of the Zohar, and Eitz Chaim, which is the writings of Reb Chaim Vital, which means the Kabbalah of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal. So in Kabbalistic sources, it says, Deshes Sephirin Mekanenin B'Yetzira, that the 6 attributes, godly attributes, meaning the 6 emotive attributes, they nest, they shine in the world of Yetzirah. Now again, every world has God's emotive attributes. Atzilus has it, and Bria has it, and Yetzirah has it, and Asiya. Every world has all 10 attributes. But the nesting, meaning the nesting of the infinity of God in, the shining of the infinity of God in these 6 emotive attributes is specifically in the world of Yetzirah, the 3rd world, the world of formation, the world of emotion. And that's where the angels primarily reside. And therefore, this is the service of the angels, constantly, not day, night, never resting, never stopping. It stands with fear, with dread, with levels of emotion. V'hainu, meaning to say, all of the camp, the angels under this head angel of Gabriel, the angels of the left, and the angels of the right of Michael. So as we explained last week, the high majority of angels are in the world of Yetzirah, because the high majority of angels are emotional, and the world of Yetzirah is a world of pure emotion. Then there are higher angels that actually have this more developed intellectual component as well, as we have Michael, the head of all these right side angels. Gabriel, the head of the left side angels. So Michael, the right symbolizes God's kindness. Michael is the head angel of the camp of kindness, of love. Kindness is expressed as love. Gabriel, you can hear in his name if you know the Hebrew, is the angel of Gevura, of restraint, of strength. That's the left-sided angels, the angels of fear. Michael and all the angels of love, the right side, right is God's kindness. That's the same reason why when we get dressed, we always start with the right, because we want to emphasize kindness. That's the right side. That's God's giving to us. And we have Gabriel again, Gevura, restraint, holding back, strength, the left side. That's why we always take off the left first. And that's the left-sided angels who emotionally are expressing this fear, this awe, this nullification to God. And that's all happening in the world of Yetzirah, the 3rd world, the world of formation. Why? Because that's the world where God's infinity is shining in the emotion of Olam Habriya. But there's a higher world. the world of Bria, the world of creation, the world of intellect, where the infinity of God is also shining, but shining in Bina, in the understanding, in the intellectual capacity of God. So that's higher. And that's where we have the souls, man higher than the angel, that serve God with intellect. So the majority of the angels in the third world. A man that serves God with intellect, because this is the world of intellect, and uses his intellect to create a loving and fearing and awe and nullification relationship with God, he's higher. He's in the second world. He's in the world of intellect. There, the infinity of God is shining in the intellectual capacities. It's a higher world because we're going to the source of the emotions. Godly emotions are a product of godly intellect. So in the second world, we're dealing with the parents, intellect. And in the third world, we're dealing with the child, emotion. Look at Isa b'Sikunim. And now we're going to give another quote from the Zohar, from Tikkunei Zohar. So the previous quotation from the Zohar, if you remember, was saying that in the world of Yetzirah, this infinity of God is shining in the 6 emotional attributes. Well, it also says in Zohar, the Ema Ila'ah, the supernal mother, this level of God's presence, that's usually called Shechina, Mikanana, nests, is illuminating. Betlei Sephirin, in the 3 divine attributes, Bikarsaya, in the throne, in the ultimate divine chair. And what is that throne? Shehu Olam HaBria, the world of creation, of Bria. So again, this was a little Kabbalistic, and also the quote was in Aramaic, so it might have been even more hard for people to understand. But the second of these 4 worlds, Bria, is called the world of the throne. If we can envision the man standing and then he sits down, he lowers himself to the chair. Well, if you're the king, you lower yourself to the throne, the divine chair. So from the first highest world of Atzilus, which is only God present, like we said last week, no Garden of Edens, Gan Edens in Atzilus, almost no angels in Atzilus, almost no souls in Atzilus. It's a world of God space. So then there's a tremendous lowering, descension, like the man sitting down in the chair, a descent to the chair, the next dimension, Bria. But in that world of Bria, we're just beginning the process. So what's shining is intellect, the mother, that which creates the next dimension, the third world, the dimension of emotion, because godly emotion is a product of godly intellect. So all of this is for us to understand that the second world is higher than the third, that intellect is higher than emotion, and that souls who serve God with intellect are in a divine abode higher, ascending beyond the angels who serve God with emotion. So this is for us to really say, wow, we're doing something really amazing. Well, you can say, well, I'm not there. Okay, but man has the ability to do that. And as I said, our service, even if we're in that third world, actually, we can also sometimes get to the second world, and angels never can, as we will soon discuss. And therefore, Humadar Nishmas HaTzadikim, this domain, Bria, the second, higher than the third divine world, is the abode of the souls of the completely godly, the tzaddikim, the completely righteous people that are serving God with intellectually created love and fear. Those that serve God with a love and fear that's drawn, that's created from their mind, from their understanding the infinity of the greatness of God. That this love is called the strivings, the will of the heart, as we learned above. We actually discussed this a long time ago in chapter 17. So what we're saying here is the tzaddik, the absolutely godly person, not most of us, but man, not an angel. He uses his mind, and through his mind, he fashions a love of God. And that is so precious because it's literally coming from our mind, from our choice. It's not programmed. It's not knee-jerk response. We are fashioning that love by virtue of using our mind and understanding God. And the more we understand God, the more we feel this love and awe and nullification to God. And the truth is, we all do that to a certain degree. That's what happens when we learn Tanya. As we delve in the ideas of Hasidic thought, as we more and more understand God, we feel Him more. We love Him more. We have more sense of nullification to Him. We're more conscious of His presence. So yes, the tzaddik, that ultimately godly being, he is doing it full-fledged. But every one of us that studies Hasidus, that studies Tanya, that God becomes more and more real to us, that the infinity of God, the greatness of God is more palpable to us, we see this in ourselves as well. And we also are fashioning that love and that nullification to God, and that's very precious because we're using our mind to pull from our heart a relationship with God. Now that we said this will is called the strivings, His love is called the strivings, the will of the heart. And from this love that's so precious because we're using our mind to fashion it. Very interesting phrase, Re'usa de Liba, the desire of the heart, the will of the heart. Well, will we normally think of as higher than intellect. But I'm using my mind to create a will, to create a desire, a will for God. It's very, very, very powerful. And it really only happens here. Because above, in the higher realms, if the souls are above, and the angels above, they can't have this Re'usa de Liba, this striving, this desiring God. They have God. They could appreciate it. They could love. They could fear. They could be nullified. But to have that wanting for what you don't have, that's unique to our world. So this Re'usa de Liba, the strivings of the heart, this desiring, this will of the heart is a will for the God that we only can really experience in this world. And we're told it's a very, very strong force that is really one of the benefits the soul has by coming into this world. The soul could be shining above, but can't have Re'usa de Liba. You can't have it. You have God. Here, we can want it. And that's one of the benefits of the many that we accrue in our journey as we go through our trajectory in this world specifically. So this very strong desiring God, which was created in this world, by using your mind and contemplating and understanding God's greatness and wanting Him and feeling you don't have Him because this world obscures God and you want it and it's a will and it's a desire. This creates a garment for the soul in this world of Priya, which is a level of Gan Eden. So the term Gan Eden, Garden of Eden, of course, originally referred to a physical place in this world where there was a physical person called Adam and a physical person called Eve, Adam and Chava, and everything that we learn about in Bereshit and Genesis happened in a physical place in this world. But there are also spiritual realities that mirror that are also called Gan Eden, Garden of Eden. And in the worlds above, there's a Gan Eden on the world of Yetzirah, that third world, the world of emotion. And there's a Gan Eden on the world of Bria, that second higher world, the world of intellect. So there's two spiritual gardens of Eden. Now, again, we know Garden of Eden means that paradise abode for after the journey of this world where the souls ascend to. And that is true. But some go to Yetzirah and some go to Bria. Some go to the third world, the world of emotion. Some go to the second world, the world of intellect. Well, what determines where you go? Well, how you serve God. If you serve God with emotion, then you're going to the world of emotion. If you served God with an intellect that created emotion, so you have emotion, of course, we want to have emotion serving God, but the emotion is flavored by your intellect, by your choice, by your creating it, wow, then you're going to that Gan Eden of Bria. Now, who goes there? The tzaddikim. only the most holy, the most righteous, the most godly truly serve God that way. You could say, wait a minute, I just said that we also do this sometimes. And we do, because we're clearly in Tanya using our mind, and we're studying about God. And as we study, we feel him more and more, and we love him more and more, and we're nullified to him more and more. So we're doing it too. We are. But the flavor of our service in the end of the day, for most of us, is emotional. Even if we're using our mind to create it, it's still a more emotive service. But the very high souls of the tzaddik, of the completely righteous, godly Jew, even their emotions have the flavor, have the weight, have the strength of intellect. And therefore, those souls ascend to this far higher domain, the second spiritual world, Bria, the world of intellect. But ours do too sometimes, because our service is also very, very precious to God. Look, Yaakov has explained these concepts in Zohar. We're doing a lot of sort of quasi-Kabbalistic ideas here. Now the Rebbe is going to clarify when we said this, souls that are serving with intellectually created love and fear. But we're talking really about very high souls, not, as we said, people that create with their love and fear. No, we're talking about the soul, the neshama, of very high souls. So let me explain what I mean by that. That aspect of soul which is relating to this higher, broader dimension of God. Whoa, there's a lot of Kabbalistic ideas here. Let me backtrack a little to explain. We said, there's the regular Jews, us, good Jews, serving God with love and fear. That's amazing. We all have love and fear because we're Jewish, and love and fear is embedded in our heart for God. And we sometimes use our mind and create love and fear also, which is what we're doing through the study of Chassidus. And that's even greater, and that's even better. But still, overall, our service is the more basic emotional service, which is the world of Yetzirah, and that's amazing too. And we also ascend to the higher world, as we will hopefully get to today. Then we have those souls of the tzaddikim, of the completely righteous, godly individual. Part of them, are able to ascend to the world of Bria. Now, what do I mean by part of them? So the Rebbe explains, there are 5 levels of soul. I mean, the Rebbe doesn't say all of this. The Rebbe says enough that if you know the backstory, you understand what the Rebbe is saying. So I'm giving you a bit of the backstory also. We have 5 levels of soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Chaya and Yechida are beyond, so we're not going to discuss them right now. The 3 levels that are primarily in our body are Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. The Nefesh enters the body for a boy at the time when he receives or should receive his circumcision and Jewish name, for a girl at the time when she receives or should receive her Jewish name. Ruach, the second level, enters the body at the time when they should begin their Jewish education, and Neshama enters the body at the time when they should have their bar or bat mitzvah, 12 for a girl and 13 for a boy. Nefesh is the action element of our soul. So when we are doing for God, the nefesh is dominant. Ruach is our emotional and speech aspect of soul. So when we're feeling and speaking for God, it's through the ruach capacity. And the neshama is the intellect of the soul. So when we're using our mind in serving God, it's through the neshama orientation. When the tzaddik, that completely godly, holy person who dedicates his whole life to God, when he departs from this world, his neshama, the intellectual aspect of his soul, and it's a little confusing because neshama means soul. So the word neshama generically means soul, but also neshama is that level 3 of the 5 parts of soul. The neshama element goes to the world of intellect. It's the aspect of intellect, it goes to the world of intellect. The ruach element goes to the world of emotion, the world of Yetzirah. And the nefesh element remains in his body. Now, this is only true for the tzaddik, for that completely righteous, godly individual, that again, the intellectual aspect of his soul, neshama, goes to the world of intellect. The emotional aspect of his soul, ruach, goes to the world of emotion. And the action, most, so to speak, bodily related part of his soul actually remains in his body. And that's why we are told, and there's countless stories and vignettes that attest to this, that the body of a tzaddik, of a purely godly person, never rots. It never rots because that element of soul is always in it. And that's why it always has that life in it and therefore doesn't decay. And there's stories recorded in the Talmud, recorded in the Zohar, recorded in the Midrash of people speaking to people that have tzaddikim, these holy, godly people that have passed away. How are they speaking to them? Because they still have an element of soul in their body. That's why their bodies are intact. That's why they can talk to them. So we have that nefesh element still in the body. And again, that's why we say that tzaddik never truly passes away, because his soul always stays in his body. And that's why he can continue to be alive, because he has a soul in his body. The ruach element is in that spiritual world of emotion, because it's the emotion element of his service of God. And the neshama element is in the world of intellect, because neshama is the intellectual way he serves God. That's decoding like half of that little sentence I just read. The other part that the Rebbe brought in there is that this neshama element of his soul, the intellectual element of the soul of the tzaddik, of the soul of that person absolutely committed to God in the holiest, most spiritual, purest way, was connecting so high to this level of God's, what is called Kabbalistically, moichin de gadlus, broad-mindedness. Meaning, now let me again give the backstory in this term. What this means is there are two elements we have in ourselves, and as mirroring God, this more constricted aspect and this more limitless aspect. Like, if I can put it in very broad terms, the God small enough that my good deeds lift him up and my bad ones pull him down. Well, God made himself small enough that he's affected by me. That's small, he's affected by me. On the other hand, that's very significant, because if he wasn't affected by me, what's the point of my good and my bad? So for a very specific reason, God constricted a part of himself that truly my good elevates him, truly, and my bad pulls him down, truly. But if God constricted his entirety of self, then what? I'm the puppeteer on God? That makes no sense. So there's that element bigger than all of that. The moichin de gadlus element, the broad-minded element, that element that bigger than my good, bigger than my bad, vaster, more infinite. And that's the level of God that this tzaddik, this godly Jew, connected to using his mind, using the soul orientation of intellect, neshama. And that's what he's basking in after he finishes his service in this world, in the Gan Eden, in the world of Bria. Because what is Gan Eden? What happens there? You know, the soul passes away. We know they're in a good place. We're talking here now with this class that's dedicated for someone whose yahrzeit is today. A Jew passes away. We trust they're good. We trust they ascend to a good place. What are they doing? What's going on? What happens in Gan Eden? We know it's not physical. We know it's amazing, but what's happening in that non-physical amazing place? So what's happening is the soul is feeling the energy created by its service in this world, most primarily by Torah. To a certain degree by the commandments, and most dominantly by Torah. The Torah we study in this world is what nurtures us all in this world, because the only food for our soul is Torah, and nurtures us in the Gan Eden, in the world as one waits for people in this world to get their act together and bring redemption. Because Gan Eden, in a sense, is like the most amazing waiting room in the world. Like, you know, we've been in nice waiting rooms. You go to fancy doctors, they have these huge, you know, tanks of the most exotic fish, some nice piped music, maybe they have coffee. It's beautiful, but it's a waiting room. In essence, the souls are in some beyond amazing waiting room, because they really want to come back down. They really want redemption. They really want to be back on planet Earth, souls and bodies, with us and serving God as people. But in the interim, it's a nice waiting room. And what are they doing in that nice waiting room? They're feeling what they created in this world. Because in this world, we are creating every second as we serve God. Right now, all of you, amazing. It's the week of Shavuos. You got so much on your plate. You have so much on your plate every single day of your life, let alone this week. And you're saying, God, I'm studying your Torah. Nothing more important than giving you this divine hug than studying your Torah. You can't imagine what you're doing right now. Well, of course you can't imagine. If you can imagine it, you would like cease to exist. You are connecting to God's essence and being. Your mind and God's mind is one. Your soul is being fed from God's energy, and we don't feel a thing. I mean, we could appreciate the learning, it could stimulate our mind, but that's about all we get. Because if we really got what was happening, we would literally die in the process. As happened 3,335 years ago, when we received the Torah, and with each divine utterance, the souls left the bodies. Literally, they died. And every time they were resurrected, what were they resurrected with? The dew that will resurrect the dead. What is that dew that will resurrect the dead? Hasidus, the inner dimension of Torah, like we're studying now, Tanya. So a certain dimension of Torah was so powerful, it swept them out of their bodies. They're I'm not staying in a body. I'm vacuumed, if we can envision, right there into being one with God. And then an even higher dimension of Torah restored them to their bodies. And that's what we're learning now. So right now, if we really felt what was happening to our soul and even to our mind at this moment, we would not be here. God wants us here. So we don't feel it, but it's happening. In Gan Eden, we feel what we created in this world. And again, what we primarily are feeling is the Torah. But also, of course, on another level, every good deed, every act, every service of God, love of God, fear of God, self-sacrifice for God, doing for God, it's all felt and experienced in Gan Eden. And that's why it's the most incredible thing. Because it's God himself that we're connecting to here. And we're feeling an array of that in Gan Eden. So the souls of the tzaddik, the soul of someone who was completely transformed to being absolutely godly. His whole existence is God. And he used his mind to create a relationship with God. And his mind connected to this higher, infinite, moichan de godless, broader dimension of God. What is happening in his Gan Eden? All of that is what he's experiencing. That is what the soul of the tzaddik on the level of neshama, intellectual slice, is experiencing in that Gan Eden of Bria. There's not too many souls that are generally there. But every soul that departed, has opportunity to experience it as well, as we will learn. But the next dimension of the tzaddik's soul, lower than neshama, the fourth dimension, ruach, which we said was the emotional and speech aspect of the soul of the tzaddik, and also all the other Jews, all the other souls of every Jew that ever lived and passed away, that we of course assume every Jew is good. We assume every Jew served God. We assume every Jew has the merit to enter Garden of Eden, Gan Eden above, but not the Bria Gan Eden, the Yetzirah one. Again, we have the higher Gan Eden in the world of intellect, level 2 world, and we have the lower, but still amazing Gan Eden in level 3 world, in the world of emotion. You serve God with a basic emotion, you go to the world of emotion. You serve God with intellectually created emotion, you go to the world of intellect, an even higher experience. But they're both very, very, very amazing. So the tzaddik, this completely godly individual, his neshama, intellectual slice of soul, is generally in the world of Bria Gan Eden, and his ruach, emotional slice of soul, is in the world of emotion, Yetzirah. And all other Jews, that all Jews are good and all Jews have some emotional relationship to God and serve God with their emotions, those souls are also in the world of Yetzirah. Ain't oilus l'sham, so generally, of course, they're not in the world of Bria, except rak b'Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh levad. But sometimes they are. Every Shabbos, every Rosh Chodesh, we assume every holiday, derech ha'amud, because there's a pillar, a conduit, Shemigan Eden ha'tachton l'Gan Eden ha'elyon, from the lower Garden of Eden in the world of emotion, Yetzirah, to the higher Garden of Eden in the higher world, the world of intellect, the world of Bria. Shu olam ha'Bria, v'nikra in Eden ha'elyon, and of course, when they go to this higher space, they can have even more pleasure in God and the godliness they created in this world. Meaning, I said that what is happening to a soul that departs? Well, the soul's in a Gan Eden. I mean, of course, when the soul departs, first it has to go through a purging, cleansing process. But after that, for eternity, until Mashiach comes, until the redemption comes and the souls come back down, which is what they really want, they don't want to be there. They want to be down here. They're looking at us and saying, no. But as they're there, it's an amazing experience. It's better than all the pleasures of this world combined, though they still would rather be here. And what did I say they're doing there? They're basking in the godliness of what they created when they were here. Plus, they're benefiting from whatever we do for them, like Sarah dedicated this class for her Bubby, it's her yard site. So obviously, that's sending up to her Bubby a care package. And that care package helps and she can benefit from that as well. But in general, all the good, all the godly done in a lifetime is what the soul experiences above. Now, when the soul is in the world of Yetzirah, the world of emotion, we said what's shining is emotions. When the soul is in the world of Bria, of intellect, what's shining is a higher dimension, a greater sensitivity. So more is appreciated. Meaning, what we just learned was, there's a certain aspect of the tzaddik that is always in the world of Bria, the intellectual part of his soul. The intellectual part of his soul is always in Bria, but the emotional part of his soul is in Yetzirah. And all other Jews, good Jews, all Jews are good Jews, right? They're all hanging out in Yetzirah. But on Shabbos, on the first of the month, Rosh Chodesh, they get to go up to Gan Eden Elyon also. They get to go up to the world of Bria. Well, what are they doing there? It's the same stuff. I mean, in other words, they're benefiting and basking from the godliness of what they create in this world. So what they're creating in this world didn't change if they're in Yetzirah or Bria. So what happens when they go to the higher Gan Eden? Well, what happens is it's as if they have a better set of glasses. Maybe a better metaphor for this might be if someone, let's say you read, you like to read novels and you read, it's a good read, you enjoy it, it's a good cry, it's emotional, it's entertaining, you enjoy it. So you're reading and it's enjoyable and you really love it. But let's say someone gave you like an hour or two crash course on writing novels. And you learned that there's a concept called mystery, and there's a concept called the overarching question, and there's a concept called the character's voice, and there's a concept called concrete details. You learn techniques of writing. Okay. Now you read again, same novel or similar to all the other novels you read. Suddenly all these things jump out at you. Suddenly you're aware of character voice. Suddenly you're aware of the overarching question. Suddenly you're aware of the mysteries embedded. Suddenly you're aware of, well, all those things were there before, they weren't there before. Yeah, they were always there. So how come I never knew about them before? Because I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't have those glasses on that I could see what was happening under the surface. It was all there, but I didn't perceive it. But now that I got a background knowledge in the art of writing, it's all jumping out at me. That's a metaphor. The soul is in Yetzirah and it's basking in the godliness it created in its lifetime. When the soul ascends every Shabbos, every Rosh, the first of the month, and probably every holiday, to the higher dimension of the world of Bria, now it's like glasses are put on. New glasses are put on. Now like suddenly you got that background knowledge. Now you know what's going on underneath the surface. So the same things that you created in your lifetime and you were basking in Yetzirah, you're still basking in Bria. But now you perceive it differently. Oh, now you get it because you have the intellect of God. That's what's the infinity shining in the world of Bria. So it's the same energy as that you were experiencing Yetzirah because it's the energy you created. But now you can get that energy more. Now you're more fine-tuned. Now you're absorbing it on a totally different dimension. So it feels so much better. So for the souls, something, we just had Shabbos that led into Sunday Rosh Chodesh. So all souls for 2 days got that experience. And now we're having the holiday of Shavuos, leading right into Shabbos, holiday of Shavuos. Again, 2 days where the souls who are always, of course, basking in the godliness of what they created in this world, but are perceiving it with a different set of glasses, with the infinity of God shining through intellect. Oh, this is what was created. Oh, wow. That's the experience we all have. Of course, we're souls and bodies, but we definitely have had many previous lifetimes. So we have had this experience, and all the souls above have this experience. And in that way, every soul has an experience an angel will never have. Because the angels primarily are never going to ascend to that world of Bria. They're in the world of Yitzira. They're God's holy animals. But the tzaddikim, they can always be there. And the regular Jewish souls, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, and probably holidays, they're there as well. So we all have that time when we ascend past the angels. Why? Because our service is so precious. Our service is so much more precious to God than the angels. And that's what the Rebbe is about to say. We're a little bit out of time, but let's try to read that, because I think that's a very important takeaway point, practical in terms of how we can apply this to our lives. Sorry, I said that rather quickly because I'm trying to get to this practical bottom line. What the Rebbe is saying here is that through intellect we can have this enormity of pleasure. So therefore, when the souls are in the world of intellect, the enormity of pleasure is great, far vaster. And then, so what merit do we have that we're ascending higher than the angels? So basically, every Jew that passed away once a week, every Shabbos for sure, once a month, every Rosh Chodesh for sure, probably all holidays, is enjoying on a level angels never can. Well, why? We said before, the great, the tzaddik, that person who completely committed and lived an absolutely godly life. All right, we understand. They use their intellect to create emotion. They're in the world of intellect. It all makes sense. It's all fair. It's measure for measure. We get that. But these regular Jews didn't serve God like that. They weren't serving God with using their mind to create an emotion. That wasn't what was happening. So why the tzaddik is in Gan Eden of Bria and enjoying this much deeper pleasure we get? But why does every regular Jew get it? Well, there's this passageway between the Gan Eden and Eliyah. Okay, we know the technicalities. We understand every Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh it happens. We get that. But why does it happen? Why is a regular soul who did not serve God using their mind to create an emotion, why are they there? Why are we higher than the angels? So the Rebbe says, even though these souls just serve with a regular, natural, instinctive, emotional love and fear, so they should only be in the world of natural love and fear, the world of Yitzira, because, no. These regular Jews are doing something no angel ever does. Through that natural love and fear, instinctive love and sheer fear embedded in our soul, love and fear that we all have, we're doing something amazing. We are doing something no angel ever does. We are doing something so precious to God. We are crushing evil. Because we're entrenched in evil. We have bodies. We have animal souls. We have evil inclinations. We have evil all around us. And when we use even the most basic, instinctive, knee-jerk, Jewish love and fear of God, and with that, we overcome the evil. We crush the evil. We resist the evil. We serve God despite all the reasons not to. Either turning away from bad, crushing, destroying all those desires that are not what God wants, or when we push ourselves and do good and we study more and give more charity and say more psalms, that we're overcoming temptation to not do bad and to do good, and God knows it and appreciates it, and it's really valuable to Him. And we all have choice. We could have all gone the other direction. You could always do something else right now and not learning. There's plenty of things calling your name, and you chose to learn anyway. Every time you make that choice, you're doing something so valuable for yourself, so valuable for the world, so valuable for God, so valuable for Mashiach. Every second of our life, we're making choices. We might make them consciously. It might be a very dramatic struggle, and it might be flickers. No, pull yourself away from doing the wrong, or sometimes slide, and then pull yourself out of it. Choosing. We're always being pulled. And every time we choose the good over the bad, it was effort. And God knows it, and God needs it, and God really appreciates it. La kafla yisitra achra. And every time we do this, we crush evil. Even the smallest, you can't be bothered, and then you push yourself into it anyway. Crush of evil. Someone asks you something and you breathe and say, of course. Crush evil. Your husband asks you something and you smile and do it nicely. Crush evil. And God so needs that and so appreciates that, as does Mashiach, as does the world, as does our souls. And this causes the ascension of God's glory. Us, small people, not using our mind to create in love and fear. But we're still pushing with that natural love and fear, and we're still choosing God over everything else. And that's why we ascend every week. The souls ascend higher than the angels. Every month with Rosh Chodesh, the souls ascend higher than the angels. Every holiday, they ascend higher than the angels. Because what are the angels doing for God already? But what did these common Jews do? They crushed evil. They chose God. They made a choice and they went for God, even though everything else was pushing them in the other direction. And every time they did so, they crushed the evil, which allowed God's glory to ascend. And it's the only thing that gives God that ascension. So when you see all this evil in the world, like, I don't know, in Pakistan, in Iran, in Gaza, how do you take care of it? You make a choice. We're making choices all day long. And every time you make that choice and you choose God over everything else, you're crushing the evil in yourself and you're crushing the evil in the world. So that balloon of power in Gaza or Iran, or it fizzles choice by choice. And the glory of God ascends choice by choice. And that's why we're higher than the angels. And that's why the souls in the lower Gan Eden deserve to ascend on a regular basis to the higher Gan Eden and get those better glasses on and really, really see what they accomplished and really benefit and really have such pleasure in what they accomplished, because we chose and we gave this all to God. So I thought this was an amazingly powerful concept with a lot of Kabbalistic backstory that we went through, but really for ourselves, and especially as we're coming into Shavuos, and we don't have time to really brain about this, but really to think and understand the power of our iskafia, of our making a choice and crushing evil. And every time we don't want to do something and we do it, we're crushing evil. And every time we have to push ourselves harder to do more, we're crushing evil. And basically every time in our life we do good and not bad, we're crushing evil. And we have that all day long. And this is how powerful it is. And this is why our service blows away any angel.